7.1. All right, some procedural stuff first. A, Lance. Don't start repainting my arms and torso. Leave them the way they are, because I finally vanquished the bacteria that has forced me to live on just protein for the last year and a half, and I can eat carbs again, so my body's going to get doughier. Do not doughify my body. Just leave it all nice, please. All right, thing two is we have to decide whether we're going to change the format of the show so we can submit it to the Emmys. Because it turns out, which I found out via a project by the brilliant comedy writer Megan Amram. She writes for The Good Place. You can also follow her on Twitter, AMRAM, Megan. And she created a short form video series called An Emmy for Megan, which is hilarious, and she got nominated for 2 Emmys for it. And we could slightly change the format of our show to also submit to the Emmys, though we won't get nominated, but we could at least say our show is Emmy submitted. But to do that, each episode of our show has to be 15 minutes instead of lately, as it was when we first started making it. Lately, each episode's about an hour. So we have to decide whether we're going to shorten up these things so we can submit. Thoughts?
I think that's total bullshit. And because when we were doing the 15-minute things, we were never able to get an idea across before we had to break. And it was, I think, kind of an unpleasant experience for the viewer, too.
Because they had to keep clicking on stuff?
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't just put the show on and go off and do your thing, clean up your house.
Because you like listening to podcasts that run like 90 minutes.
I do, but I mean, I can't imagine why anybody would want us to do a 15-minute argument or a 15-minute subject discussion.
This is a year and a half later, and we're more practiced and able to move things along more briskly, I would hope.
What do you think, Director Camille?
Well, I think that I see and I understand your argument, Lance, in terms of just the show and getting your points across and the time frame aspect. But in order to get some street cred, if you will, in order to get make this show viable and maybe potentially get some more fans, we do get nominated for an Emmy.
Which is a long frickin' shot.
Right. But, if you don't play, you can't win.
Yeah. There's also a compromise where we only do it once every third shoot, where we do 2 long form under the old title, Lance versus Rick, and we do the short form under a new title, Lance and Rick fight about stuff, and we just have 2 different shows. One's short form, one's long form. What do you think about that?
Go ahead, Camille.
I was going to say, maybe we can ask our viewers to see what they think.
Yeah, I think that is a solution I couldn't really argue with. So if anybody is watching this out there and you have a preference, go ahead and write it in the comments, because we do read the comments, and say whether you prefer us to go back to the 15-minute shows or whether you like the long format. Okay? All right.
All right.
I just want to say I feel really strongly that the 15-minute shows were irritating.
Well, we were just starting. We were little babies at this. Now we're slightly older babies.
All right.
All right. Last procedural thing. So I've mentioned that Carol likes these mini mosaics, where people in Italy have put together mosaics that are only like this big. So I bought her one from the 19th century that was cheap because somebody stepped on it or dropped it and effed it up.
Actually, you can keep it on the line.
Okay, all right. So see, this thing is an inch in diameter. It's an inch across. It's teeny tiny. And Lance, you were going to help me restore it. I've got the little pieces, I've got the glass on order. I'm going to chop it into little pieces. I'm going to plug the glass in, little pieces of glass into the holes here. But it turns, okay, it turns out for the very fanciest of these.
So what's busted in it?
You see there's holes, she's got a crack across her head. In the background, there are all these missing tiles here, little mosaic pieces that are only like a half a millimeter wide. Because this thing is as big as a button. It's just so crazy tiny. But it turns out that the best of these, this is one from, I don't know, the early 19th century. This is a detail from it, where this kid's head on the real piece is like the size of a pea. You can notice that the grout, the mortar between the tiles has had coloring mixed in, so it matches the color of the tiles on either side of it, more or less. So it's like half a painting and half a mosaic. So Lance, every time I try to mix up colors, I end up with brown. If you don't know how to mix colors, every time you try, you end up with brown, right?
Yeah.
But you're good at mixing colors, so I'm going to ask you to mix me up batches of colors, so when I put in the tiles, I can grout between the tiles with the right color tiles.
I will mix you batches.
Okay. That's it. Now I'm gonna have a little rant. Maybe. I don't know if I've had enough coffee to rant hard, but I always get more pissed during the week thinking about how I've failed my side of liberalism when I'm fighting with you, and then I fail to be as pissed as I should be when I'm with you. But when I was pissed this week, and you have accused me, and you'll accuse me again this week, of being brainwashed by what you call the liberal media. And I would say that what you call, the thesis of this rant, if I'm able to rant, is that what you call brainwashing is common sense. Carol and I were out to dinner with another couple last night, and the husband said that he doesn't believe in the moon landings. We tried to send 7 missions to walk on the moon. Only 6 made it. Apollo 13 had an explosion on the way and had to turn back. But 6 times, America landed a pair of dudes on the moon, and 12 Americans walked on the frickin' moon. 6 missions to walk on the moon, plus a bunch of preliminary missions to build up to it. And this guy, my buddy, says he doesn't believe in that. And I said, well, why? What specifically? And he says he doesn't know. It's just a feeling he has. But frickin' the amount of shit that you'd have to disbelieve, and the amount of alternate shit that you'd have to believe, to think that we didn't land on the moon, to disbelieve in physics and history and video recordings and the entire mass of information, the entire history of the American space program and even the Russian space program from 1957 on, and even before that, because we got Werner von Braun from the Nazis after World War II. This whole history, you have to believe in a complete alternate history. You have to disbelieve science. You have to. It's just so crazy the amount of alternate bullshit you have to believe. And I think what you present to me every week is a similar form of alternate bullshit, that you have a complete alternate narrative that runs back more than 50 years, because you like to say that we could have won the Vietnam War if Ted Kennedy hadn't been in cahoots with the Russians to brainwash Congress into losing the war. You've said that, right? That's roughly your argument?
Something like that.
Yeah. And so that goes back to 1960, into the 60s, when McNamara admitted years later that he knew the war was lost as early as 1967. So that's 51 frickin' years ago. And then there are all these other alternate narratives you have that, like, that Trump is being unfairly singled out. And, you know, I knew Trump was kind of a douche long before Trump was a presidential candidate. And I just thought this up. Trump is like a giant monster, like stomping, like a Godzilla-sized or Cloverfield-sized or Pacific Rim-sized nuclear mutant lizard stomping into the political arena. And, you know, when you have a giant monster pushing over skyscrapers in your city, you might not follow protocol to the letter. And Trump, this guy who's been a sleazeball his entire career, runs for president and then gets elected president, and meanwhile seems to be compromised in all sorts of ways. And like people at the FBI and just in various other government agencies are tripping over themselves to try to see what the fuck he's up to, if anything, or what the fuck Russia is up to with regard to him. And you guys like to say, well, what you did was unfair. You broke this law, you broke this rule, you broke this rule, the FISA this, FISA that, and then you present everything as a conspiracy by the deep state to deny Trump, this noble warrior on behalf of average Americans, to deny him the full power of his presidency. And I just think the amount of bullshit and alternate history you have to believe to buy all the conspiracies that you want me to buy, because I believe, looking at conspiracies throughout history, that less than 5% of conspiracies turn out to be true. It's more like 2% or 1%. People want you to believe that, well, all right, that there was no moon landing, or that 9/11 was an inside job, or that Marilyn Monroe was murdered because she knew too much because she'd banged JFK and Bobby Kennedy, and that they injected tranquilizer, they gave her an OD by shooting pills up her butt. And all these, that's one of the theories, that, you know, that she didn't OD on pills, that she was OD'd, somebody OD'd for her with, you know, a shot of, you know, barbiturates up the butt. And all these crazy theories, like occasionally they turn out to be true. Like the CIA really did have something to do with promoting crack in the inner city as part of the frickin' Guns for Contra's crazy fucked up thing of the early Reagan era. But those conspiracies are rare. It's rare that a conspiracy turns out to be true. All right, that's my rant. It's not a very good rant, but go ahead.
Well,
the common sense says that all this information that leads to simple explanations as to what's going on should have more weight than the crazy set of conspiracies by this deep state that you want me to believe in.
you know, I wish you would just keep talking, because I'm getting so much done on this painting, and this is kind of like, it's like listening to the final scene in a film where the person breaks down and starts spewing out insanity in a courtroom, and they just say, of course I had to kill her. She was egging me on. So I'm kind of enjoying this, the way it's building. It's yeah, you can't. I was going to say the Kane Mutiny with Humphrey Bogart, where he breaks down, but nobody watching this will have heard of it. But I'm getting into it, and as Rick is speaking, I myself am getting brainwashed. So I don't know. I mean, do you have anything more to add to this colorful tale?
Well, I'm speaking in generalities. You're stronger on specifics, because I keep saying, and I believe it's true, that you listen to podcasts many hours a day, which means right-wing, conservative podcasts, which means that you're loaded for bear, like one of the bears that Betsy DeVos is afraid will invade schools in Wyoming. You're armed, you're ready to fight, with fucking Hannity's take on shit, and Judge Janine's take on shit, and Stephen Molyneux's take on shit, and Jordan Peterson's take on shit, and Dennis Prager, fucking Larry Elder, all these frickin' conservative justifiers and explainers and putting things in contexters.
They are gods. Mm-hmm. They're all my heroes. They're all my spiritual fathers.
All right, so.
All right, well, look, I'm just going to respond with a specific.
Okay.
Because not only do you think about how you could have said things better, but during the week, I actually I watched the videos and I discussed it with a psychiatrist.
Which videos? Not Dinesh D'Souza, another one of your gods.
No. I discussed our videos.
Okay.
And I said to her, I'm dealing with a guy that has accepted. This is what I said to her. I said, if I hit you with a subject you've never heard one word about, like, I don't know, revolution in Latvia, I can pretty much tell you what's going on, link it up with a few basic facts we all understand, and you'll agree with me. Or say, okay, sounds logical. But if it's anything that Rachel Maddow was able to get her filthy little paws onto, even if well-informed Rhodes Scholar paws? Even if she spoke about it for 5 minutes a year ago, once it's gotten into your mind, there's no way to dislodge it. And so
you've had me change my mind about a number of things.
Okay, well, but that's an interesting point, because you're still brainwashed, and let me explain why. Because even if I get you to change your mind, you'll still vote Democrat. I mean, nothing would stop you. If Jerry Brown was to run for office 14 times in the next 60 years, you'd vote for him every time. Well, you would never consider voting for a Republican.
Well, hold on. We had Schwarzenegger, Republican, fairly unqualified, inexperienced as governor.
This is a dull.
All right, but anyway, like a shitty.
Yeah, we've had some Republican governors, but you would still vote Democrat no matter who it was. In spite of everything that we've discussed. So nothing. In fact, if Hillary was running again, you'd vote for her again. So nothing I've said has made any difference. Which is even weirder. So in other words, when there's absolutely irrefutable evidence that I'm right about something, you're actually able to say, well, okay, fair enough. You may have a point there, but you'll still vote for Hillary.
Well, in the balance,
there is no way of changing your mind. It's done. You're gone. Now, let me tell you what I did to drive myself sane this week, because I was thinking about it all week. I was thinking, what am I going to do with this guy? I mean, I can't. I have to get the actual signature from the actual State Department document. I have to read the court orders.
Well, hold on. Let's give background. You've been arguing that Hillary was fully cognizant that we were selling 20% of America's uranium to the Russians, which is itself a misrepresentation.
You want to go back into that?
No, but what happened at the end of last week is you showed me a signature on a document about plutonium. Hillary signed some document about plutonium, and you're saying this is the smoking gun that she knew about uranium, even though they're two different elements. And I looked it up, and I couldn't find any articles that said that her signature on a document about plutonium reflects at all about her knowledge or lack of knowledge or involvement with a uranium deal. They're two different squares on the periodic table. Yeah, they're related to each other, but you couldn't show me that they were related on paper. You just showed me a signature that Hillary signed a thing about plutonium.
Does anybody in the viewing audience see what I have to go through? Now I am not a violent man, but faced with this kind of provocation, a normal man would not be able to withstand it. It took me 5 years as a Zen lay monk to be able to just show up every week. Okay, I'm just going to repeat what Rick said. I showed him a document with Hillary Clinton's signature, signed with the Russians the same month that the uranium deal was signed, but instead of saying uranium...
months later.
No, same
What
period.
month? Name the month.
It was the middle of 2010. It was between April and late summer. That was when the deals were made.
All right, so not necessarily the same month. And plutonium's a different fucking element.
But see, this is what I have to go through.
But in all the things...
It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to show him her signature on a document. The fact that it said plutonium instead of uranium was enough for Rick to go back into his brainwashing and more.
No, I never backed off.
No,
okay,
don't
all right,
interrupt.
all right.
But there's more. We ended the show with me pointing out that plutonium was actually more dangerous than uranium, because plutonium is what they use to make nuclear bombs with. There's no civilian purpose for plutonium. So why is the Secretary of State signing over weapons-grade uranium
No.
that's been processed into plutonium, that can then be shot at us in a nuclear bomb? Why would Hillary do that? And Rick is that doesn't even go into his brain. It's like I didn't even say it. It's like, well, so what? It's not uranium. I mean, you said it was uranium, and now you don't even know the month. Rick, I can't argue with you.
But you're claiming all this stuff. But and listen,
I'm making a wild claim that the Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton,
knew about a uranium deal because she signed a plutonium deal.
Well, you know what? This is the point. This is the point where Lance loses his shit.
No, hold on.
Feel myself.
Let me semi-agree with you.
Rising.
Let me semi-agree with you. That Hillary signed a plutonium deal in the same year that you accuse her of knowing about a uranium deal raises the odds. It's circumstantial evidence that raises the odds that, yeah, maybe she knew about the uranium deal.
Well,
but it doesn't prove anything.
Rick, isn't it? And when you present the brainwashed subject with the possibility that the document says plutonium, but in general parlance, it's gotten into the public that it's a uranium deal. But that can't be possible.
No,
right?
It can't. Because
because no one would ever say uranium when they meant plutonium, right?
No, they're two different elements.
Okay. And if she did sign away United States plutonium to Russia, an element critical to making nuclear bombs, would that bother you? Would you be of concern? Would that
I read up on this just a few hours ago.
Okay.
All right. So the deal is that both America and Russia have more. They don't obtain this stuff from outside sources to make more nuclear warheads because we have more than enough. Well, actually, no. The U.S. has gotten uranium and plutonium from decommissioned Soviet warheads to use in our nuclear reactors. In other words, we've bought uranium and plutonium from Russia because they have because the U.S. and Russia, the Soviet Union, used to have, I don't know, close to 4,000 or maybe it was 9,000, some crazy number of nuclear warheads apiece. And thanks to treaties over the past 30 years, we've each dropped the number of deployable warheads to about 1,700 apiece. So there's a bunch of fissile material from decommissioned warheads. Each country is sitting on a surplus of bomb-grade uranium and plutonium. And we've bought some of that stuff from Russia. And we have more than enough to make more warheads if we ever want to make more than the 1,700 we have, which is enough to blow up the world, X times over. So nobody's in the business of, as far as we know, there's no shortage of bomb material between the U.S. and Russia. And nobody's in the business of trying to obtain more bomb material as far as we know. The stuff that we're in business, where we buy stuff from Russia and we maybe make deals where Russia gets to buy some stuff.
Oh, I'm sorry. It took a lot of explaining for you to get to the point where you said, maybe the Russians are buying plutonium from us?
Well, you do have Hillary's signature on a thing that says that, I believe, if I remember the document, that, yeah, they could buy some plutonium.
So Hillary allowed the Russians to buy bomb-making material from the United States.
But they're not making bombs.
How do you know?
I don't know, but neither do you. And nobody has written about it.
Wait.
Nobody has written about this.
Rick, I'm going to take a wild guess. Because I'm not brainwashed, I can use my head. Now watch how I'm going to do this, guys. Now follow this, because this is going to show you mental health in action. Here we go. The United States has this stuff called plutonium that you can make nuclear bombs with. We're going to give them to the Russians, the only country in the world, other than China, that makes nuclear bombs well enough to blow us up. And the person that let this happen was the Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton. And meanwhile, after the deal was struck, she got $145 million donated to her charitable organization. Furthermore, her husband got $500,000 to do one speech in Moscow. Now, that does not concern Rick.
Well, no, but
because he knows that people sell plutonium to one another all the time. It's not a big deal. You know what? I could go get some plutonium and just, I don't know, put it in a jar and look at it.
You can't.
I would never make a nuclear bomb with plutonium.
You can't.
Wait a minute, Rick. You're a scientist.
Yeah.
Why the heck would anybody make a nuclear bomb out of plutonium? If you had a big pile of plutonium, would you put it in a museum?
No, you put it in a reactor.
I see. But could you put it in a nuclear bomb?
Yeah.
And you think we should be giving that to our greatest enemy?
Well, we bought some. We got some from Russia. Apparently they got some from us.
That's fine with me.
Now, and each country...
I just don't like the other part where we give them nuclear material.
Each country has 1,700 nuclear weapons.
No. Our country has about we've got literally, they've got about 6 times more uranium than we do. They are uranium rich. And Bill Clinton, I guess I have to remind him every week, went to Kazakhstan to make a deal with the president of Kazakhstan so that the Russians would get control over the second largest deposits of uranium in Kazakhstan.
All right, so
wait a minute. Let's go over it one more time. 5 countries. Russia, Kazakhstan. Those are the 2 highest deposits of uranium in the world. Then Australia and Canada, way down the list, is the United States. The United States needs to make nuclear bombs, but we don't have that much uranium. But now, Russia, because of the work of Bill Clinton, has the Kazakhstan uranium deposits.
All right, this is wrong.
No,
it's wrong. Because we have 1,700, each country has 1,700
Wait, you're
warheads.
interrupting me.
Yeah, but hold on,
No,
because
I
you're
needed
saying
to come to a
bullshit.
summary.
You're saying
Fine,
bullshit.
wait till I'm done. Wait till
Okay,
I'm done,
fine.
or I slap you. Russia now has access to the Kazakhstan uranium deposits, so they now have the 2 largest uranium deposits at their disposal, but that wasn't enough. Hillary Clinton saw fit to sell them some of our precious plutonium that we're running out of.
No, we're not running out of it.
No, you go right ahead.
All right,
Explain that.
Actually, one problem is that we end up with too much plutonium because we have these breeder reactors that make plutonium out of uranium, and then you end up with too much plutonium.
Yeah,
But the
I
deal
got
is-
too much. Man, you trip on it when
All
you
right,
walk
so
through the studio.
anyway, so each country has 1,700 nuclear warheads, has enough surplus stuff to probably make another 1,800. So each country would have 3,500 nuclear warheads. So, if we deploy, if we have a nuclear war and each country deploys 3,500 nuclear warheads across the world, which is enough to slaughter the entire planet, all life on the planet, 50 times over, then at that point, after a nuclear war in which 7,000 nuclear bombs have been set off, then we'll be in real trouble. Now you and I can buy uranium. You can go on eBay and buy uranium. Not a lot, but when I was a physics major at the University of Colorado, I had to use uranium in experiments.
So they gave some of it to you.
Yeah, not very much, but just to, play with a Geiger counter. Uranium's a commodity. And Hillary, she didn't necessarily have anything to do with the 20% of U.S. uranium deal. But the deal is that...
But you did sell all that plutonium to...
I don't know how much... We can
And
look at
the
that document
plutonium-
again.
And the plutonium is specifically for nuclear weapons. There's not a lot of use for the plutonium.
Nuclear weapons and reactors.
Okay, but you're not going to use it for nuclear medicine. You're not going to use it for Rick's experiments. It's basically to make nuclear bombs with. And you know what? Again, I'm not sure I trust Putin with our plutonium. I think he'll probably use it for a bomb. But that's just me. I'm not as trusting as you.
He'll use it for warheads 3,510 through 3,550.
But you see, okay, first of all, I want to explain something to
Now,
you.
also, that 145 million was donated by a guy who sold off his interest in Uranium-1 probably 5 years before he made the donation.
You know who owns Uranium-1 right now?
Yeah, the Russians, Putin.
Okay, very good, Rick.
But the guy who donated that 145 million sold off his interest
I see.
years before he made that donation.
That's what
now,
he
of course, he
says.
might. That is what he says. So it hasn't been substantiated, but he says he sold off. So yeah, they could still be chummy,
Could
and
be
yeah, they're-
lying.
I just.
I don't know, Rick. Why do you suppose he gave 145 million to the Clinton Foundation? Was it because he's a nice guy? I mean, what did he get out of that? Do you suppose?
Right.
Now let me just refresh the viewer's memory. This was after getting a deal so that his company could get control of all the uranium in Kazakhstan. So, and then he gives 145 million to the Clinton Foundation. And by the way, Clinton went with him to the Ukraine, or to Kazakhstan, to discuss it with the president of Kazakhstan. So let me get this straight. Clinton facilitates the deal, and then the Clinton Foundation gets $145 million. But that doesn't bother you. You see no difficulty there. It leaves you cold.
Ooh, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to really piss you off by talking about catching fake IDs.
So long as you don't tell me about how sexual you were when you were 9.
Okay, fine. But
Because there's limits.
I checked IDs for 25 years. And occasionally I'd run into an ID that I couldn't decide whether it was real or fake. Because there would be circumstantial, probabilistic evidence on both sides. A couple times it was just ridiculous. Like, I think I've talked about it. One guy, when you ask the people the standard questions like, what's your zodiac sign? What year did you graduate high school? And they're a little iffy, maybe they get it right, but you're still suspicious. Maybe their eyebrows don't look the same. Maybe their nose looks different. Maybe they don't have enough backup ID to satisfy you. Then you say, well, can you sign your name for me? And include your middle name. So this guy signs his name, and it happened twice. People misspelled their middle name. I'm like, dude, you misspelled your middle name. And the guy is like, dude, I'm sorry. I got hit in the head during a softball game and I have brain damage. I'm like, dude, I'm taking your ID. Dude comes back 40 minutes later with a thick stack of medical documents, his whole file. He got hit in the head with a softball and he has brain damage. So it turns out that the circumstantial smoking gun was not definitive. Another guy signs his name for me, and he had a beautiful signature. But when he signs it for me live, it's a scrawl. And I'm like, dude, not your signature. And he goes, dude, look at my hand. He's got 2 giant scars across his hand. He goes, I accidentally skied, this was in Colorado, skied over my hand and I severed a bunch of nerves. I'm like, all right, dude, come in. Because he looked old enough and he got everything else right. And he had another guy, a hillbilly dude at the Sagebrush Cantina in Calabasas. Misspells his middle name, but his middle name is Ulysses, and he's a hick. And I could never decide, I can't decide, is this guy, the question is always, is somebody stupid or are they lying? And, sometimes there's circumstantial evidence without it being definitive. And in the case of uranium-1, you guys cherry pick all the circumstantial evidence that seems bad, and then if you look at the whole thing, it seems somewhat less bad, though not 100% exonerating, but neither is it 100% damning of Hillary Clinton. You have all these pieces of a case, but there's no connecting them.
With the fact that now they're saying that all her emails were downloaded by the Chinese government, would that fall into that same...
Who's saying that? Because other people are saying not that.
I believe it's the Republicans.
Oh, well, the Republicans who... Yeah, all right. So it's not a fact. It's something that's said by the Republicans without a whole lot of substantiation.
It's in the IG report.
Okay.
That's the investigator general.
Yeah, and does he say 100% that it was downloaded by the Russians? No.
Okay. It turns out that the FBI...
Or the Chinese.
The FBI jumped to her defense and said that they don't know that for sure, that happened, that her work was downloaded by the Chinese. But it turns out it's not the FBI's job to study that. The Department of Intelligence that does control that, which I think is the Defense Intelligence Organization, DI something, they say it did happen. And they're the ones that are in charge of that. So you can't deny it anymore. And there are, if you want, we can break for as long as you want, and I assure you...
Let's just break because we've gone for a long time. But let me end with my worldview about this whole thing in a nutshell. Hillary Clinton, sloppy. Donald Trump, sleazy.
Okay. Well, unfortunately for you, in those documents that the Chinese were... Think about it. This is what they're looking at right now, okay? They're looking at many, 23 or 22, I don't know the exact number, and I know numbers are important to you, email chains that were of the highest priority, above top secret. And there wasn't just one email, it was a chain of emails where there were lots of other people involved discussing things with Clinton. There was the name of a CIA operative that had been secret. It was as if every email that Clinton sent out on that server, and there are thousands of them, including the above top secret level emails, were all CC'd to the Chinese. What happened was there was a Chinese computer organization that went in and somehow did some work on the project, and they put a little thing into it.
Okay.
And then everything she typed went to the Chinese.
All right, so let's break and I'll read about it. And then
Okay.
All right. Thank you. At the beginning of the next...
All right,
Hey.
boy.
I love Russia.
He's friendlier than a lot of people want him to be.
Man, I'm hot. Are you guys hot? Because I'm under that light. I'm sweating.
I'm damp under the arm.
We need to get this thing closer to us. That's what will help.